Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a few of the sleeper OP or underrated champs right now in patch 8.5. So all of these champions in this patch right now have below a 5% play rate, but in this current meta, they're picks that can do pretty well, which is why I am featuring them in this video. And then for those of you who have not entered into the RP giveaway yet and would like to, there is a link down in the description below. I'm running a $100 RP giveaway with a few other YouTubers for around another week or so. I'm pretty sure it's up for, so if you're interested, then be sure to enter into that. The first champion we're going to take a look at in this video is going to be a jungle pick, and it's Olaf. So Olaf in 8.5 has seen so much more play by pro players. It hasn't really caught on yet in solo queue, but he ended up getting those buffs in this patch, and it's just made him a much stronger pick. So what the pros are running right now on their Olaf jungle is they're not taking Ghost, they're taking Flash instead, and they're running Predator as their keystone rune. By running Predator here, you don't really need the Ghost on Olaf, because whenever your Predator is up, you can just use that to gap close, and then once you get onto your target, you don't really need the extra movement speed from the Ghost, just because you are going to be slowing them with your axes. So by running the Predator there, it does allow you to take the Flash as well, and it just allows you a little bit more kill pressure when you are ganking in the early game. Now for the build on the Olaf jungle, what I would recommend doing is going for Cinderhulk into something like Trinity Force, at least building one damage item on your Olaf jungle. A lot of pro players, they're not building any damage items at all. They're just going Cinderhulk, Righteous Glory, and then like full tank after that. But I think for most elos, it is important to have a little bit of damage there with your Olaf, so you do have a little bit more carry potential. So how you should be looking to play this Olaf in the early game is you should try to get an early base in to grab the upgrade on your boots, activate that Predator, and then play off of your Predator's cooldown. Whenever the Predator is off cooldown, be looking to gank. You shouldn't really have a lot of downtime on the cooldown for Predator because it's just such a strong early game rune, and you need to make sure you are looking to snowball the early game if you are playing Olaf. And then another jungler that got buffed in this patch that's doing much better is Nocturne. So he got a buff to his passive, his Q, his W, and to his ultimate. I think the bigger one there was to his ultimate though, to where the blackout duration got buffed from 4 seconds up to 6 seconds. And just by activating this now in a mid to late game team fight and having the enemies have reduced vision for 6 seconds now can be just really strong, and it just adds a lot more utility into Nocturne's kit. Now, how you want to play Nocturne in the early game is pretty much the opposite of Olaf. You just want to be farming up in the early game as Nocturne, look to get to that level 6, and then once you do hit 6, you have some of the best ganks in the game for any jungler. I do think Nocturne does fit pretty nicely as well into this meta because we're slowly but surely seeing more assassins now being played in this patch in the mid lane. We're seeing more Fizz, more Echo, more Zed, and at level 6, Nocturne's synergy with those assassins in the mid lane and his ability to just gank that lane and snowball mid lane out of control is really good. If the enemy does pick like an immobile mage like a Victor or a Cassiopeia, then it's just super easy for Nocturne to get a really nice snowball going once he does hit 6. And then another really big thing that indirectly makes Nocturne stronger right now is the fact that less and less players are running stopwatch, and in previous patches, Nocturne just wasn't really a great pick because everyone was running stopwatch, and his ability to look for kills once he hit level 6 even wasn't really that great because they just stopwatch your ultimate and they just get away. So I think that's another big thing there that does make Nocturne much better. Now, if we take a look at a mid lane pick here in Zilean, Zilean has always been a very high win rate mid lane champion. However, he's always had a very low play rate, so I'm always kind of like hesitant to feature him in one of these videos. But I think right now in this current meta, Zilean mid is actually a very strong pick for a few different reasons. So I wanted to feature him in this video for this patch. So because of the recent item changes, it just makes Zilean an even stronger pick because because the fact that Archangels now gives you CDR, that's really good for Zilean, because in previous patches he would go for something like Archangel into like Rod of Ages and Rabadons, and that build path didn't give you any CDR at all. So because you can run like Transcendence now on Zilean, you can also go Archangels, you can hit a really nice mid-game power spike of 30% CDR there. And then because we have seen a rise in assassin play rate over the past few patches, right now 5 out of the 10 most picked mid laners are assassins. So Zed, Yasuo, Fizz, Echo, and then if you count Ahri as an assassin, Zilean can just do a really good job at shutting down those champions once it does reach the mid to late game, and his ultimate is just pretty much the complete counter to those champions. So next up here, we're going to take a look at a support pick, and it's going to be Bard. So Bard right now can do a really good job at just doing what he wants to do, because this meta in the bot lane is featuring a lot of these more passive supports. We're seeing a ton of Janna, a ton of Lulu, Nami, Sona, and because Bard has the ability to roam really well in the early game, and because those supports don't really have a ton of kill pressure in the early game, it allows Bard a lot more free time to look for roams, to look to influences other lanes. And what I've been doing when I play Bard is I run Celerity and Water Walking, and it just allows you to get from bot lane over to mid lane really quickly. And if you just look to shove in the early game as Bard, look for that early roam mid, then you can really do a great job at influencing the game on Bard in 8.5. And then for your setup on Bard, Electrocute is what's doing best on him. It just allows him a ton of kill pressure in the early game, and a lot of people, they just don't expect the damage coming out of Bard for the first few levels. So if you pair Bard up with a strong early game AD carry as well, then you do have a lot of kill pressure against these more passive supports. So next up here is going to be a top lane pick, and it's Renekton. So Renekton's been a pick for pretty much the whole season, to where he's been down in the dumpster. He hasn't really been considered a great top lane pick, but because of him getting direct buffs in previous patches, and because Press the Attack has gotten some pretty good buffs over the past few patches as well, it is bringing Renekton back up in power. We did also see Aftershock getting nerfed in this patch, so those tank champions that would run Aftershock previously, it just made it super hard for these like bruiser top laners to actually trade against them in the laning phase. But because the cooldown on Aftershock did get increased, it does allow Renekton to look for a lot more trades now in the early game against those tank champions, and his early game potential to snowball is just much better now in 8.5. Another mid lane pick that did benefit a lot from the AP item changes is Karma. So Karma's really flying under the radar right now in the mid lane. More pro players are starting to pick her up in this patch, but she's only got like a 1% pick rate in solo queue so far. The reason to why she is doing a lot better right now is because Luden's Echo as a first item is really good on Karma. Karma does have one of the strongest early to mid games for any mid lane champion, so the fact that you can rush Luden's now on Karma just makes her a much stronger pick. After you get your Ludens on Karma, there's a few different options you can go. If you feel like you just need to protect your AD carry and your AD carry is really fed, then you can go with Fiends into like Ardent Sensor, and that does really well on Karma mid. If you are snowballing very hard in the early game and you just want to be able to nuke with your Q, then you can go straight into a Death Cap after Ludens and just give yourself a very strong 2-item spike. And then similar to Zilean, she does do a pretty good job against these assassin picks like the Zed, the Yasuo, the Echo. If they try to jump onto Karma, she can just use her Mantra E. It's going to give her a ton of movement speed, so it's very easy for her to just gap close away from those assassins very quickly. And then to round out this video, the final pick is going to be another mid laner, and it's Velkoz. So I think Velkoz in a lot of different situations in this patch can be a very strong mid lane pick. Other than the assassins being played right now, like the Fizz, the Zed, and the Echo, he can do a really good job against most of the other meta mid lane picks. We're seeing way more Ryze, Cassiopeia, and Nivea. These shorter range mages Velkoz can do such a good job at shutting down because he's going to outrange all of those champions with his Q. If he hits any of those champions with a Q in a mid to late game team fight when he's got a few items, he can just pop his ultimate, he can chunk them out, and he can just make those champions so useless come the mid to late game because of his ranged advantage. The recent itemization changes are also really nice for Velkoz because he was always a champion that did like to go Luden second a lot of the time, so because you can go that first now on Velkoz, it gives him a lot more shoving power once you do pick up that item and just really strong wave clear. And then once you do grab your Liandry's as well, the Luden's Liandry spike is really good on Velkoz and it just gives him a great mid game. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. These were, in my opinion, some of the most underrated and sleeper OP picks so far in patch 8.5. If you guys did enjoy this video, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you have yet to already, and then also be sure to check out the RP giveaway down in the description below if you would like to. With that being said, guys, thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.